you for coming out for our Google Plus Hangout. Throughout the entire presentation, feel free to write some questions in. We're going to answer them later on, but we're here to talk about housing, res life, and as well as living learning programs. Like I said earlier, I am an admissions counselor here at UK. I specifically recruit South Central Kentucky, so basically Meade County all the way down to Warren County, as well as everything off the Cumberland Parkway and also the entire state of Tennessee. Now I'm going to let themselves introduce themselves as well.
Hi, my name is Michael Hagg. I work in housing here at the University of Kentucky, and helping you guys go through this presentation today.
Hi, my name is Trisha Clement Montgomery, and I work with the Office of Residence Life. I work specifically with the Living Learning programs here at the University of Kentucky. Nice to meet you.
So now we're going to go into a short presentation. Michael's going to take it over. And once again, if you have any questions, feel free to type them in and we'll answer them at the end. All right, let's get started.
Alrighty, so at any point during this, as well as afterwards, you guys have any questions, anything like that, obviously use the Q&A we have there. But afterwards, if you guys need to get a hold of us, here's our social media contact. You guys can follow us on there for updates and stuff like that throughout the year. So what are we going to cover today in our presentation? I know you guys have lots of different questions. So what we're going to do today is we're going to cover important dates. We're also going to go over the housing options, the application process, as well as move-in, and then we're going to get into a time of Q&A there at the end. So important dates, and I'm going to ask Brian to chime in a little bit here because the housing application, the dates and deadlines, they go along with the admission dates and deadlines. So Brian, can you tell us a little bit about the early action as well as the regular decision? What does that even mean? What applying, application dates, stuff like that?
Sure. So this was actually the first year that we did the early action deadline, and it has worked perfectly. Although it has worked perfectly on December 1st and really November, then in November and at the beginning of December, we received literally thousands of applications. So if you have not received word yet, do not worry, you will be getting that soon. So if you applied around December 1st, you should be hearing back soon. If you applied after that, usually takes about 4 to 5 weeks to hear back, especially it started in December and on in January. So if you haven't heard back, don't worry about it. You will hear back soon. If you want to check if we've received everything from you, your transcript, your letter of recommendation, anything like that, feel free to get on UK's website. You go to uky.edu/admission/recruiters. That's going to put you in contact with your recruiter. So like I said, I have South Central Kentucky. Every territory is covered by a different admissions counselor, even out of state. So get on there, check that out. Also, when you log into your application again, you can actually see what we have. That is another way to see what we have for you. And if you have sent everything in, maybe we haven't gotten one thing, we're still waiting on that. When we get everything, that is when your application will process. So even though you may have applied, send your application on December 1st, we may not have received your transcripts maybe late in December. And once we get that, then we can process everything. So check on your application first, and then from there, feel free to contact one of your recruiters if need be.
All right, thanks, Brian. And the housing deadlines, as you can see on here, if you apply for admission, then you apply for housing by February 15th. For the early action, along with the regular decision, apply for housing by May 1st. And then our next slide here shows us if I apply by what date will I get my housing assignment. So if you guys apply by February 15th, then we're going to take that application and then we're going to get you your housing assignment, actually where you're going to live, what room you're going to live in, roommates, all that kind of good stuff on March 15th. If you apply by May 1st, then you're going to receive all the information about your housing assignment on June 1st. And then anytime after May 1st, it's kind of on a rolling basis. So as soon as we get it in, we start to consider it, put it in the system, and then we'll get you your housing assignment just as soon as we can. So our next section is housing options. So for our housing options on campus, we have 4 different room types. So that's how we ask you where you want to live on your housing application. So the first one is called traditional. It's in the upper left-hand corner there. And this is the Blanding-Kerwin complex area. The next one is the 2-bedroom suite, the top right-hand corner there. And that shows you we have actually individual bedrooms in those units, as well as a small living space there. In the bottom left-hand corner, you see the 4-person suite. So there's 2 people on one side, 2 people on the other side, and they share a bathroom between them, as you can see there in that little 3D layout. And then in the bottom right-hand corner, we have a 4-bedroom suite. It's almost like a mini apartment. You got a little kitchenette area with a full-size fridge. Just one thing to note about that is there's not a full kitchen in there. It's just a kitchen with a refrigerator, freezer, and microwave as well. So on the housing application, which we'll go through a little bit later, we're going to ask you, number one, which type of room type you have. So that's what we just went through, those 4 different room types. And then our second question is going to be, which area of campus do you want to live in? And we break up campus into 3 different areas based on your housing. So see the top of the map there is North Campus. The kind of center middle section of there is 2 buildings is Central Campus. And then the bulk of our housing, bottom right-hand corner, is South Campus area. So then we're going to go by each section, show you a little bit more of what's in each of these areas. So first we're going to start with North Campus. And in this area, you can see that we have 3 different room layouts located in this area. We have the 4-person suite, which is located in Roselle Hall. We have the 2-bedroom suite, which is located in Champions Court 1 and 2, as well as Wildcat Lodge, and then a 4-bedroom suite located as well as Champions Court 2. And one thing to know about that 4-bedroom suite, we have very little of those units. There's only 29 of those units, and it's only in Champions Court 1. So just keep that in mind when you're applying. That is one of our very highly sought after bed types on campus. So our next area we're going to move to is Central Campus. You can see there we've got Hagen Hall as well as Central Hall 1 and 2. And within this area, we have 2 bed types. We have the 4-person suite, which again is the 2 people on one side, 2 people on the other side, and they share the bathroom between there. They got a toilet and a shower that they share between the 4 people. That's located in Central Hall 1 and 2, as well as Hagen Hall. And then in Hagen Hall, we also have the 2-bedroom suite, which is the 2 individual bedrooms. They got their own door, they lock, it's your own separate space, and then a small little kitchenette area, and they share that bathroom. Our next section of campus is South Campus. And just looking at this map here, you can see there's a lot of buildings in this area. So there are a lot of students that live in this area on campus. And again, we have the 3 different room types that are located in South Campus. The first is traditional, which is located in Blanding 1, 2, 3, and 4, as well as Kerwin 1, 2, 3, and 4. Again, that's traditional. There's 2 people that live in this room, and then they share a bathroom amongst people on that floor. The next one is the 4-person suites, which is located in Baldwin, Smith, and Ingalls Halls. And then again, the 2-bedroom suite, which is located in Woodland Glen 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And one thing to note about this is that Woodland Glen 3, 4, and 5 are brand new buildings. They are in construction right now, so they'll be opening brand new coming August 2015 this year. So those will be brand new buildings, really exciting on campus with the construction that's going on right now. So our next step is the application process. I know a lot of you guys have gotten on here today. You've been accepted to UK. What do I need to do next? You need to get all these applications, forms, etc., stuff like that. So one thing that we're going to take off your mind today is housing. We're going to show you guys what this looks like, steps, what you need to have to go through the application, and all this good stuff. So before you start, there's a few things you need to know. Number one is that you must be admitted to UK. And the reason for that is that when you get accepted to UK, you get these things called your Link Blue. It's what you log on to your email, sign on to computers, stuff like that on campus. So to get onto our housing application, you must have this username and login to get onto the application. So that's step one. Second piece to note is that there is a $50 non-refundable application fee. So when you go through the application, this is something you're going to have to pay for on the application. So just keep that in mind when you're getting ready to start this application. And the third question we can answer is how long does it take to complete the application? So it can take anywhere from 20 minutes up to an hour, just based on which sections of application that apply to you, how quickly you have the information in front of you, all that kind of good stuff. So it's good to be prepared, kind of have all this information ready so that when you go to apply, it's a quick process. So the first step is to log in, again, with those Link Blue credentials that we talked about earlier. It's your username and password for the university. So you're going to go to myuk.uky.edu. And then once you get on that page, it'll ask you for that Link Blue username and password. You'll type that in. And then you'll see a whole bunch of tabs pop up. And as you can see from this graphic, you'll go to the Student Services tab. And then within that, just right below it is the My Info tab. And then it'll bring up this list that you see here. And on close to the bottom there, it says Undergraduate Housing, and you'll click that. And that'll actually pull you into our application. And then once you get into our application, that we see fall 2015, spring 2016, that's asking you which term you're applying for. So you're going to want to click that if you are an incoming student this year. So the first step in the application process, we're going to ask you a few details of your name, your address, all this kind of information that you've entered 100 times before in all kinds of other places. So that's what you're going to enter. And then takes you to the second step, which is an online contract. So just like you would sign a contract for anywhere else, it's going to have all kinds of fun stuff in there about terms of the contract, all that kind of stuff. So once you click that box and skip to the next step, it's like you're signing a document with that. The next step is the meningitis vaccination, and all we need for this is just a date that you have had your vaccination. So, it's a good thing, just check with your doctor before you start the application. Just get this date so that you can roll right through the application. You don't have to stop and go back. And then like we talked about, the application fee, this is where you're going to pay for that. It'll actually take you to a page off of the application. That's where you enter your credit card information, get everything paid up, and then it'll bounce you back into the housing application, where you'll enter your personal preferences. And this is where you're going to enter in we're going to ask you like 10 or 15 questions. For instance, what kind of music do you like to listen to? Do you like to study in the morning or study late at night? And what this is useful for is later in the application, you can have the opportunity to search for a roommate. So based on your answer to these questions, it'll search for a roommate that'll tell you, 5 or so options. We think these people might be good for you to room with if you don't have somebody in mind that you like to room with. So take a few minutes, think about these questions, and it'll be a good way to find a roommate later on in the application if you need that. And then again, the room type and area of campus. This is what we talked about earlier. So the room type, which is traditional, 4-person suite, 2-bedroom suite, or 4-bedroom suite. Those are the 4 different room types you can choose from. And then it'll also ask you the area of campus. So North Campus, Central Campus, and South Campus. And if you're wondering about these, where was that hall I went to on my tour? I really liked that one that I saw earlier. You can always jump on our website, uky.edu/housing, and you can check out our places to live section. It'll walk you through all the buildings that we have, what's included in them, floor plans, all that kind of fun stuff. So you guys can take a look at that while you're getting on the application. The next section is, like I just talked about, the roommate search. So based off of those questions that you answered previously, we're going to take those, run them through some really smart computer algorithms, and we're going to spit out 5 people that we think you might want to live with. So when you're taking into account those questions you filled out earlier, just make sure you take some time, think about them, really answer them well, so that when we give you these suggestions, people that you actually might want to live with. And also, we get a lot of questions. I've got a friend from high school. We're in the same classes right now. We're both going to UK. We really want to live together. How do we do that? And it's a perfect place for the roommate search. In that area, you can actually search for people who have applied for housing. So if you know somebody you want to live with, make sure that they have either applied for housing or in the process of applying for housing. And when you go into this section, just type in their name. We'll pull their application, and you just say, hey, I want to live with you. We'll send a request to them via their email. They just confirm that, yes, I do want to live with this person, or if they may not like you that day, they'll say no. But we're pretty much banking on the fact that they'll say yes if you guys are good friends. Then that'll be paired in your application, and we will house you guys together in the same room. The next section is meal plan. So this is all of your meal swipes on campus, all the places that you're going to be eating. There's 4 different plans to choose from. So it starts with a minimum plan, which is 7 meals a week, and then it goes all the way up until unlimited meals per week. So just keep that in mind, and you can always adjust these up until about 2 weeks into the semester. But you can always, just good idea to take a second, think about how much you may be eating per week, meals in our restaurant, stuff like that, and then find the best plan for you. And of course, if you need to look at those plans, the different restaurants we have on campus, you can visit Dining's website at uky.edu/dining. And they've got a lot of new restaurants coming on campus. I don't know if Brian or Tricia, you guys have seen some of the construction that's going on.
Yeah, it's really nice.
Yeah.
I'm jealous.
And so one of the newest buildings on campus called the 90 will actually house a Panera as well as an Aqua Sushi. But more importantly, there's going to be a Taco Bell on campus. Kind of a big deal. Once you get on campus, you realize how great that is. But feel free to check that out. It's on South Campus, so feel free to check that out once you get here.
Alrighty, the next section of the application, and also the last section, is the Living Learning Program. And I'm going to turn it over to Tricia to tell us a little bit about the Living Learning Program, what those are, and the benefits of them.
Awesome. So if you want to apply to a live and learning program, you definitely want to pay particularly close attention to the last part of your housing application. For those of you who don't know what a live and learning program is, it's basically an opportunity for you to be able to live with other students who have similar interests to you as well. In addition to that, faculty and staff that are connected to that particular live and learning program often do office hours in that residence hall, in addition to different programs and things of that nature. So for instance, we actually have a couple of programs that are dedicated to certain majors, one of them being engineering. We also have a fine arts live and learning program for all of our fine arts majors. But then we also have communities that are linked more towards your interests. And so if you are an ROTC cadet, may that be Army or Air Force, then the ROTC Live and Learning program might be something that you're interested in. If you're more interested in social justice activities, then Lexington Engage might be a program for you. And so there's definitely something for every student. So if you're interested, you're going to go to the end of your housing application and you're going to fill out certain questions related to the Live and Learning program of your interest. After you complete those particular questions, you make sure that you hit the submit button, and then all of your responses will come to our office. If you have applied for a Live and Learning program before February 15th, we follow the same deadlines as both housing and admissions, and you'll actually receive a response as to whether or not you've been accepted into that Live and Learning program by March 15th. If you've applied to the Live and Learning program, the deadline is April 1st, and you've applied after February 15th, then you will actually be notified as to whether or not you've been accepted by May 1st. So very similar deadlines to the ones that you've heard previously. You can actually go to the UK Housing undergraduate website and learn more about those Live and Learning programs, but you also have the opportunity to find out what exact residence hall are these Live and Learning programs located in as well. If you, for some reason, did not get accepted into a Live and Learning program, then that same process that Michael mentioned earlier is what they will assign you to in regards to your residence hall preferences. And so no need to worry. Either way, we make sure that you're taken care of and you get put into a facility of your choice.
As a recruiter and admissions counselor, I would definitely encourage you to look at applying to a living learning program. The one worry I have students usually bringing me is that there's going to be too many people. They're not going to know anyone. Well, an LLP, Living Learning Program, is a great way to meet students initially. I actually graduated as a broadcast journalism student, became good friends with those comm students, but I didn't really meet my communication friends until later into my freshman year, and then we formed our study groups from there. These LLPs are a great way to get that literally as soon as you move in, start meeting those people to make that process a little bit easier. And all those living learning programs, as well as an explanation of all those, are online, so definitely check those out.
Yeah, and Tricia brought up a good point that we forgot to mention earlier about the when you're applying for the room type and where you want to live, take into account some of the LLPs that you might be applying for, because all of our living learning programs are only located in the specific hall they're located in. It's not just, this LLP is all across campus. So take a look at that, like we said, on our website, and just kind of take that into account when you're applying for the different areas and room types on campus.
And sure. And one more thing on the areas of campus. Usually when I talk to students, they have maybe been to campus a few times and they really don't know the layout. Kind of give you an idea. South Central Campus, if you're wanting to be closer to the library, South Campus, Central Campus is a great place for that. Say you like to work out, you want to be close to the gym, the Johnson Center, that would be closer to South Campus. The Student Center, or the main kind of classroom area where some of your classrooms will be your freshman, sophomore year, then you want to probably look at North Central. So when you're deciding where to live on campus, it can kind of be sort of hard, but with the LLPs, to kind of figuring out where you want and where you want to be close to, that's a great way to kind of figure that out.
So that wraps up the application process. And at any point, if I need to check with my doctor about my meningitis vaccination, or I forgot to get that before I started my application, each section has the housing application. You can exit out of it, and there's certain pieces that you can come back to and edit, like the meningitis vaccination, your roommate search. You can always come back into those and enter in more information later. So just don't feel too much pressure to get it all done at one point, but you can always log back into those certain different sections of the application. So the next big thing that everyone wants to ask, I've gotten accepted to UK, I've applied for housing, I get my where I'm going to live, my roommates, get all that sorted out. I bought everything. All right, now when do I get to move in? Everyone's getting antsy. When do I get to move in? So what we're going to do is we're going to send out all that move-in information later in the summer once we have all the dates figured out, all the times figured out. So just always check back with our website about that, and we'll also email you all this information early August, maybe end of July, but just keep on lookout for that because we're still finalizing all the details and times for all those move-ins.
I know one worry that I get from a lot of students is, say you're moving in, say your dad works, so your brother works, so your mom works. There will be a lot of volunteers all over campus to help you move in. So do not worry about that at all. You will receive help regardless of where you're moving on campus. So don't worry about that at all.
Yeah, not only move-in help, but you'll get lots of free hot dogs, and there's water everywhere on campus. So it's the pep band comes out. They're all over campus. It's a really fun day. It sounds kind of boring. I got to take all this stuff out of my car, and then I got to get it in my room. But, everybody at UK helps out, volunteers. The president and his wife are out there shaking hands, saying, welcome to campus, all that stuff. So move-in is actually a really, really fun time on campus in Lexington.
Sure, I know probably my most surreal moment when I started at UK I'm a graduate was when my mom left after moving me in, and my roommate, who I actually known since elementary school, we looked at each other and we're like, hey man, we've actually made it. We were in our room, and then from there we went out and started meeting people. That was one thing I encourage you to do, is to start meeting people as soon as you move in. It will definitely help you out in the long run.
One thing to note in regards to moving is that if you get into a live and learning program, you actually get to move in 2 days earlier than the rest of our freshman students. And so that's another really good way for you to connect with the other students in your live and learning program, as well as the faculty and staff who are going to be with you all year to make sure you're successful.
So that kind of concludes what we have as far as our presentation, and we're going to do some Q&A now, but just want to give you guys our contact information. You can see as our website has the bulk of our information. Hop on there to find out more information about places to live, what the rooms look like, as well as the living learning programs. It's got a full list of those. Our phone numbers. So if you have questions about, did you get my application, or, where is my housing application? I applied 2 months ago, haven't heard anything. Anything like that, you want to contact our housing assignments office, and then the number is listed there. And then if you have questions about living learning program or staff that's going to be in the halls, some of the policies within the halls, stuff like that, feel free to reach out to our residence life department, and their phone number is listed there, and then as well as the 2 emails for both of those.
All right, well, that concludes the presentation portion. The one thing I will add on to the end of that is a little bit about K-Week. So once you all finish your advising conference, usually over the summer, you'll receive something about K-Week. So you're probably wondering, what is K-Week? So as a former student, and I know Michael is a former student as well, the one thing we can speak to is, one, there's free food everywhere. It's literally the best part. But along with that, there's different events going on campus that I would encourage you to participate in. The Big Blue U is one of the funnest things we do, actually. We actually go into Commonwealth Stadium, we start learning cheers. It is a great time. I don't know if they're doing it this year, but I know in the past they've done the world's largest water balloon fight. There's a lot of social things to really, once again, to get out and start meeting people. I cannot stress that enough. As an admissions counselor, as a recruiter, the one thing we get is, I'm scared I'm not going to meet people. So UK will literally set it up for you to start meeting people. But you have to take that initiative to get out of your res hall and start meeting people. Your RA will come and get you usually for these events, but make sure you do go out and start meeting people from the jump. So now we're going to go into a few questions. Once again, if you all have any questions, please send them in and we would happily answer them. So the first one we have is from Marie, and it is going to be, are pets allowed in the dorms? How are the dorm levels organized, co-ed by dorm or floor? Are appliances provided? Can freshmen have cars? If so, where is the parking area? So we'll hit on these kind of in a row. There was a lot of questions that one. So the first one we're going to hit on is, are pets allowed in dorms?
Pets are not allowed in the facility. You are allowed to have a fish. That is one of the pets that are definitely cleared. However, unfortunately, no other pets are cleared. We do have some students that are currently going through a program where they're allowed to train dogs. So that requires a special certificate and permission, but those are the only 2 animals that are allowed in the residence hall facility.
All right, the next one is, how are the dorm levels organized? Co-ed, by dorm, or by floor?
Yep, and this is a question that we get a lot. So in each hall, it's different. Some of the halls that are the floor plans are small enough so that it'd be like male on one floor, females on another floor. Some of our floor plans are just so vast, they're so long that we've got to sectionalize it either. Sometimes, a lot of times, by the elevator. So you get off the elevator, you go to your left, and that's all female, and you go to your right, and that's all male. So that's how we split it up. Like I said, it's different by each hall, but usually somewhere around the elevator we split it up, or by floor.
And then the last one is, can freshmen have cars? If so, is there a parking area? If not, what is the campus transportation? So I'll take that one. Students can have cars on campus. As a student, it is not, as a freshman, you're more than welcome to have a car. There is a fee for a parking permit, and you can actually apply for these, I do believe, over the summer. You'll receive an email, or you can get online and apply for your permit. Now, most freshmen, depending on when you apply, it is by preference, depending on where you live, as well as the timing. Just kind of let you know, most students, especially freshmen, end up parking in K-Lot. That is by Commonwealth Stadium, but there are parking lots around your res hall as well. So that, once again, is a first come, first served basis. Freshmen, will let you know you could possibly end up at K-Lot, but it's not that big of a problem, trust me.
Yeah, I think we left off one there. Our appliances provided, and it depends on what appliance you're really talking about. In some of our rooms, we do provide a micro fridge, which is a refrigerator, freezer, or microwave combination, so that keeps you from having to bring that from home. But that is in some of our facilities, not all of them. So the best thing to do is that once we send you your housing application, just hop on our website, look up whichever residence hall you're living in, and look at which appliances are provided. That'll give you an idea, more specifically in your case, what appliances are provided.
Sure. So the next question we have is from Catherine Makowski, and she wants to know basically, how will you find out about getting accepted into LLP? Is it a letter? Is it an email? How do you figure that out?
It's a great question. So actually, if you are sent an invite and accepted into a community, we will actually send that invitation to you via email. We usually send that to your UKY address. So that's the email address that you've been provided once you've been accepted into the university. But we also send that to your alternate email address. So it will go to either whatever alternate address you place on your application, and then also to your UKY address as well. But all of that is done via email. So you want to make sure you check your email between the dates that I've provided earlier for your acceptance.
Yeah, and that's one thing that, a lot of times you set up this email when you get accepted. You're really excited about getting in. I got my UK email address, all this stuff. And a lot of people don't check it again until August. So one thing you definitely need to make sure is just keep checking that email, because a lot of official correspondence from the university will only go to your UK email address. So make sure you either got that set up before, just somewhere that you're checking regularly, or you're checking on that regularly.
So the next couple of questions I've received a lot about basically how are roommates chosen, but more specifically, say you are applying for housing and you don't have a roommate in mind. How do you figure out, how do they choose who your roommate is? And is there any way to meet them before or anything like that?
Gotcha. So there's two ways on our housing application. Number one is where you choose your roommate. So that's the instance, you got your best friend from home. You guys both know you're going to UK. You really want to live together. That person's going to be your roommate. So on the application, you go into the roommate selection. You type in their name. It finds their application, and then it links you to their application. That auto-generates an email to them that says, Sally wants to live with Susie. Susie, do you accept? Susie accepts on her end, and then that puts your applications together so that when we go to assign you, we know to put you guys in the same room. So that's if you know exactly who you want your roommate to be. If you don't know who you want your roommate to be at the time you apply, there's two different ways you can do it. Number one, that is one of the sections that you can go back into and put somebody in there. So, you get on Facebook, you get on Twitter, you guys find somebody that you want to live with. You just go back into your application, put them on your application, they put you on their application, and then you guys are put in as roommates. But if you end up, you can't find anybody, you don't know anybody from home that's coming, there's 10 questions, 15 questions on the housing application. It's, what kind of music do you like? Do you like to study late at night? Do you like to study early in the morning? Do you like to exercise? Do you like to do this, that, the other? You answer all those questions, and then we take all those questions you answered. We take everybody else that's answered those questions that's looking for a roommate, and it runs it through our system, and then it spits out, 5, 10 or so different people that we think, based on your answers, that we think you'd be good roommates with. So then you go through there, you can maybe reach out to them, contact them, find out a little bit more information about them, and then you guys can find a roommate that way.
Now, it's important to know if you get accepted into a live and learning program and you have requested someone that you are coming from home with and you want them to be your roommate, that particular individual has to also be accepted into the living learning program and also to be in order to be your roommate. If the student that you would like to pair up with to be your roommate is not accepted into the same program, you will be paired with another living learning program student based on the preferences that you've listed in your housing application. So it's important to know in regards to roommates, it's a little bit different if you get accepted into a living learning program.
Sure, and I know Michael hit on social media, but that is a really great way to start meeting people. I know usually every year there is a class of whatever for the University of Kentucky Facebook page. I'm not sure which one will be for this year, but search that, and that is a great way to meet people. Usually people will literally post on there, hey, I'm from here, I like this, I don't like this, who wants to be my roommate? And that is literally a great way to start meeting people. That's how several of my students have met their current or former roommates. So don't worry about having a random roommate. There's a lot of ways to figure that out. Also, if you're coming at Merit Weekend or also your Summer Advising Conference, another great opportunity to possibly meet people. So another question we have that I get a lot as a admissions counselor is, how are guests handled in residence halls?
Yes. It really depends on the facility. The majority of our facilities, however, at this point are getting closer to 24-hour visitation. And so pretty much your guest just has to have a standard government issued ID in order to check into the facility. They're going to check in at the front desk. The ID is going to be kept at the front desk. And then when they check out, they'll come back downstairs and receive their ID. And so pretty much as long as you have a government issued ID, you should be able to check into the facility.
Yeah, one thing to note is if you have a minor, maybe your brother or sister is under 18,
Yes.
There is a form online that we have you fill out just to say, this person's coming, we have a mother, father, some type of guardian sign off that they know they're coming, that is okay. So that can be found online as well.
All right. The next question is, can you apply for housing before you officially commit to the school? And you can. You can apply for housing before you commit to come into the UK. But the biggest thing with that is, once again, I encourage you to apply for housing as soon as possible. Apply for your living and learning program as soon as possible. May 1st is the deadline to confirm your attendance going anywhere, whether you're looking at UK or EKU or some other school outside the state of Kentucky. That is nationwide. You must commit by May 1st, as well as your deposits are due by then as well. So once again, you do not have to be committed to UK to apply for housing. That is by May 1st. But once again, I encourage you to apply as soon as possible.
Yeah, and there's a few things that go along with that. Number one, on the application, we do ask you to pay a $50 non-refundable application fee. So, say you're still kind of on the fence about where you're going, but you go ahead and apply for housing. If you come back and say, I don't want to live, I'm not going to go to UK, so don't need housing, you won't be refunded that application fee. So just keep that in mind. And then also, our housing is first come, first served. So, the earlier you apply, the earlier you're going to get some of those choices you listed as 1, 2, 3, 4 as far as your room preference. So, those are some of the things that you might consider when you're thinking about, okay, when am I going to commit to going here, there? Just keep those things in consideration.
Sure. So the next question we have is surrounding disabilities or anything like that. Say you live in a rest hall, you have ADHD, or maybe it's a physical handicap. What do you do, or who do you contact about that before you move in?
Yeah, there's a disability resource office on campus. That would be your kind of go-to place to ask them all these kind of questions, whether that's handicap accessible or like it says here, ADHD, ADD. So that is your one-stop shop for anything that you might need with them.
All right. And also we have a message from Justin from UK Dining. Just to let you know, if you have any questions about dining, feel free to contact them at ukdining@lsv.uky.edu or go to their website directly at uky.edu/UK Dining, or you can also tweet them at UKY Dining. I encourage you all to definitely look into those meal plans. That is a great way to kind of figure out what you need or what love you want to be once you move on to campus. And you can change those, but you can only upgrade. So make sure you look into that to see how many meals you want a week. Usually parents are scared that their students aren't going to have enough food. Trust me, the 15 pounds I gained my freshman year, you will have more than enough food. But also just feel free to check on that as something you can know well ahead of time. So looks like that is the majority of our questions. I'm going to scroll through here to make sure. I know we have a lot of questions about which res halls are specific to which living learning program. Once again, feel free to go online to look into that, whether you're looking at your healthcare or your engineering. Those are all online to get specific about where you maybe where you're looking to live or you want to apply to give you a better idea there.
I think it's also important to mention that there are spaces allocated in each residence hall for students that are not in the Living Learning program. And so if you're interested in a particular facility that a Living Learning program is in, but you don't want to be in the Living Learning program, that's okay. And there's definitely spaces allocated for you. So the possibility of being a facility that has a Living Learning program in it, but not being in the LOP is also possible.
And I know we're getting a lot of questions specifically about deposits. There is a enrollment deposit, there as well as a housing deposit, and there also is a fee for your orientation, whether you're looking at Merit Weekend or also if you're looking for a summer advising conference. Those are all online, or once again, you can email me for those specific prices. My email is brian.kennedy, that is bryan.kennedy@uky.edu, or you can contact your specific admissions counselor directly. All right. Did you all have anything else to add?
No, I think that, we covered a lot of bases here, a lot of good questions about, dining and parking and all those kind of good things. And we're just excited for all of our new students to come on campus.
Yeah, I'm excited to meet many of you when you get accepted into UK in the fall. And so can't wait to see you. But if you have any questions related to the LLP, just make sure you use some of those contact numbers that were listed on the screen and just contact us at any time.
So we would like to thank you all for coming and hanging out with us, literally. Once again, go back to the contact information. If you have any questions for myself or anyone else here today, feel free to email them, call them. We're on campus, so at usually Monday through Friday. Most the hours change. I'm here 8 to 4:30, Monday through Friday. Feel free to contact me if you ever have any questions. Thank you all for coming out. Once again, send us emails, call us. See you all.